Hello, Jeff's mom again.
She's going to be texting us again.
Tell Jeff to get to work.
Exactly.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Basic AF. Tom Anderson, joined as always by my co-host, Jeff Battersby. Happy New Year, Jeff. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you too, Tom. Yes, Happy New Year. By the way, just to, break your heart, or to show you how impressive and well-remembered I am, I was in New York City yesterday, and I was looking at cameras, Fujifilm cameras to be exact, pointing out that Chris Freitag has maybe ruined my pocketbook. But I was in B&H.
I was going to ask if that's where you were.
Yeah, I was at B&H. That's when I took a picture of the soundboard that you use, not exactly the same one. And so I wanted to see which models Chris was using, so I texted him. And I got the equivalent. I even said my name. Chris, this is Jeff Battersby. And I got the equivalent of new phone, who dis? It was pretty funny. And then I said, it's Jeff from Basic AF. Oh, yeah.
You. Okay.
So, we are, at least I am sticking in the minds and hearts of everybody, including our guests. And speaking of guests.
Well done.
Yeah, it was a good segue, wasn't it?
It was. That was nice.
We have a guest today, Adam Jones. You're back. How are you?
Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys. Really excited to talk about Apple Intelligence today.
Yeah. Who am I?
Jeff.
What's my name?
I got it.
Depends. Is it Jeff Battersby? No, I don't know that guy. Is it Jeff Basic? Oh, you. Yeah.
Basic A Jeff. All right. Anyway, so welcome aboard. Yeah, we're happy to have you too, Adam, and good to see you. How were your holidays?
Oh, they were awesome. I've got young kids, so it's really magical when you have kids around the holidays. A little bit of stress, but more joy than not.
Nice.
Yeah. Always a little crazy. I was texting a friend of mine, and she has a new granddaughter, and I asked how it was, and she said it's great. Nice to have the kids and the dog around. I guess they have a dog, a kid's dog too. She says makes things a little crazy. So there you have it. That's the nature of the beast. Unless you're old, single, and childless, you're going to have that kind of drama.
Some quick housekeeping. This is episode 52. So if you would like to see show notes for this episode, basicafshow.com/52.
In weeks, a full year's worth of episodes, which we got a nice message from a new listener.
We did.
Who said they just found our show, listened to a couple of episodes, and are now going through the back catalog, which we love. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Love to hear that. All right, Adam, so you joined us back in episode 40 in July, which was right around the time the public betas were coming out. But
back when we were young.
I don't know about that. It's been a long time since I've been that. But for folks who may not have caught that show or more recent listeners, why don't you take a minute and introduce yourself, and then we'll jump into things.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again for having me. I can't believe the last time we spoke was in July. It seems like it wasn't that long ago. But so I'm Adam. I'm a former high school teacher and administrator. I've always had a passion for technology. I worked for an education technology company briefly. But in 2021, I founded a company called Skybound Education, and we're a consultancy of 4 people that serves 18 school districts or charter schools in Indiana. And so that's my full-time day job, if you will. But in my spare time, I love talking about tech and making some YouTube videos about different topics. And you can find me at Adam Jones INK, like the ink you write with. So thanks for having me back.
Awesome.
Yeah. We're glad.
Thanks for coming back.
Exactly. We didn't run you off. That's good. We're happy with that.
We haven't chased you away.
Yep.
Shocking, but true.
All right. So for today's show, what we intend to do is spend a little bit of time kind of taking a look at the Apple Intelligence features thus far that we've picked up in the last couple of months. I think they first rolled out, if you're not counting the betas, it was, October of this year, because the iPhone 16 lineup came out that Apple promoted as all about Apple Intelligence, and Apple Intelligence wasn't quite ready when they were released. There was a little bit of a lull there, but it is out now, at least some of it, and so we're going to talk about that and give some thoughts and kind of maybe give it a grade and see how Apple's doing so far. So
see how it's working.
Yep.
And as we all know, I'm a little AI-less. That's not entirely true, but I'm not a all in. So Adam and Tom will be taking most of the reins here, and I'll just be asking stupid questions or inserting my opinion about things. But one thing that we did say that came up earlier, actually maybe in the last couple of days, The Verge had an article out that says, "Is your phone sharing photos data with Apple by default?" And the answer to that is yes. The article itself, I don't have permission to view this story. I love Apple News sometimes. Since I posted this, I still don't have permission to do it. There's a feature, and you should know about this. There's a feature in your phone that's part of, and actually part of the Photos app that is Apple is turning on by default, which I think we all agree, Adam, Tom, that sharing your data should not be on by default. But it's important to note that this feature called Enhanced Visual Search is what allows you to take a picture, say, of St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York City and have your phone come back with information saying that's St. Patrick's Cathedral. Apple, if you read their privacy information, very clear about the fact that this is mostly on-device machine learning. So what it says in the notes about their searching photos says the process starts with an on-device ML model, which is machine language model, that analyzes a given photo to determine if there is a, quote, region of interest, and then in parentheses, ROI, that may contain a landmark. If the model detects an ROI in the landmark domain, a vector embedding is calculated for that region of the image. So it basically, it's looking at a picture, sending information privately to Apple to say, hey, this might be St. Patrick's Cathedral. And then it links your photo and that information to back-end information. The point that The Verge was making, and the person that actually originally posted this with the kind of salacious Apple occasionally makes choices that tarnish its strong privacy forward reputation, like when it was, quote, secretly collecting Siri user data. True. That's not a lie. There was a developer, Jeff Johnson, that pointed out that these kinds of things, if Apple's going to do them, should be opt-in, not opt-out. So if you look under your Photos settings in the Settings app and scroll down toward the bottom, you will find that there is a setting that says Enhanced Visual Search. If you do not want this feature, you need to go and turn it off on your own. And that's a fair statement, a little janky in terms of the, clickbaity title. Is your iPhone sharing photos data with Apple by default? The answer is yes. We can affirm that it is on by default. And if you do not want that information sent to Apple, which is what allows you to see that you're looking at, as if you didn't know, St. Patrick's Cathedral, you can turn that off. So that is one of the AI features, Apple Intelligence features that Apple has on board your devices. But this goes a step further than, say, taking a picture of a flower or a leaf in the wild and having it come back. This is using some of your information, sending it to Apple, and then coming back with historical information or object information that is being gleaned from other sources as well. There we go. I think I covered it. Now I've said everything I know about Apple Intelligence.
Do either one of you care too much about them doing that?
I don't. I think it probably should have been opt-in, but to me, this highlights something going on in AI in general, which is it's dependent on massive amounts of data, publicly available data. And to deliver really good user experiences, companies need to surface as much of that data as possible, as quickly as possible. Just a quick side note, I was reading recently that back in the early days of the internet, people were studying how long people would stay on a web page before they would lose focus or not complete a shopping experience or a search query. And I think we're reaching that with AI. If the tools aren't really fast, if they don't give us information intuitively, rapidly, then people might think this isn't worth my time. It's not adding value. And so Apple, I think, made a choice here that they're going to send that data right away. They know the majority of users won't turn it off, and they're just trying to deliver a great value. Now, I'll say I'm more comfortable with Apple doing it than a lot of companies out there because Apple is so privacy forward. That's a big part of their messaging. They've got that great ad where they're like shooting down the drones that are looking at your search history. Have you all seen that one?
Yeah,
I've seen that one.
And it is a great ad.
Yeah, I think they're drones. I may be misremembering, but I just feel like Apple has been a leader on encrypting iMessage. And even when they talked about Apple Intelligence and the way that queries would hit your device first and then go out to this secure cloud structure, I think they really want to be the key player that's delivering it in as private a way as possible. And so for that reason, it doesn't bother me, but it is a slippery slope for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, opt-in, always a better choice, I think. It doesn't bother me either. I like that feature, actually. I like the fact that, if I'm looking at something, particularly for me, plants, animals, things of that nature, that I can get that information quickly. But, again, anytime your information is being used essentially as crowdsourcing, your information is being used elsewhere, I think it's important to note that. By the way, back in the olden days of the original iPhone, Apple had initially bought geolocation information, and your iPhone is providing and has been providing geolocation information, based on different cell towers and Wi-Fi and all that kind of stuff for ages. And you probably opted into that a bazillion years ago. So this is not new, this kind of crowdsourcing that Apple's doing. To Adam's point, yeah, this information is, fortunately for us at present, God knows what, future holds for Apple. Somebody else takes over. If all right, I'm going to show my stripes here. If Elon Musk buys Apple, we might end up with a slightly different situation. But presently, I like Adam. I trust the machine. So there we go. That's my feelings.
Okay. I do too, just for the record. Not that anybody cares. But
No, I care.
yeah.
I
Okay.
care, Tom.
You
Tom,
really don't.
I
You
do.
don't.
Well, you were cheating on me today. With
They've got all my photos anyway. They're all in iCloud. So what difference does it make? I don't care. Help yourself. All right. So
nobody wants to look at you anyway.
that's why I don't do any selfies. I don't want to look at me.
Same.
So I get it. Okay. So on the Apple Intelligence front, we have had some features roll out over the last couple of updates, starting with the .1 updates for iOS, iPadOS, and macOS. So 18.1 for iOS and iPadOS, 15.1 for macOS Sequoia, and of course .2's come out as well. And we've got .3 in beta, once it came out just before the holidays, but that I think will pick up more now that everyone's going back to work.
Adam left us, Tom.
He did. He walked out. He had enough.
I'm here. I was sparing you a dog bark.
That's okay. Mine do it too. So let's look at a couple of those features, and in the note that we're using here, I don't have them in any sort of order, really. They're not in chronological order or anything like that. So let's just run down the list really quickly, and then we can dig into a couple that are of interest and go from there. But so we've got writing tools. On the image creation side of things, which can be a sensitive subject in some ways, but I think Apple's done an okay job with making it fairly obvious that these are AI images and they're kind of cartoonish and everything. We got Image Playground. We have the Image Wand. On iOS and iPad OS, we have Genmojis. And I think for image creation, that is about it. We got Summaries for mail, notifications, and web pages. Photos got some features in it. Cleanup, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, a little bit. Memory, movies, search using natural language. And then ChatGPT is available, and it sounds like Gemini and maybe some others will be forthcoming as the updates continue to roll out. So with ChatGPT, you can use your own account if you have one with ChatGPT. You can sign in with that account, or you can use it without an account. Some features do require ChatGPT. So visual intelligence on the iPhone 16 lineup. If you use that and want to use the Ask feature, you need a ChatGPT account for that. So there's kind of the list. Adam, out of that list, which ones have you spent the most time with? Any in particular you'd like to dig into a little bit here as we get started?
Yeah, I have played with most of these. The one I have not played with at all is the Image Wand, where you can create images like within Notes. But I have integrated my paid ChatGPT account, so I'd be happy to talk about that a little bit, using that on the phone as well as Mac OS. And then I've played with the writing tools a little bit. So maybe with the writing tools, I'll start there. I'm a big fan of Apple Notes, and that's where I just will draft an email or I'll gather data. What I've found, a lot in my work, I'll create a lot of tables or ask it a different AI tool to look at a set of survey data or quantitative information and then create a table from that. But it doesn't always format very well to copy into like a Google Doc. It's not easily copied over. It'll be like an original Markdown, which doesn't get transferred into whatever writing document I'm using. So if I copy that into Notes, presumably in Pages or another tool as well, and then I highlight that Markdown table and I go to Writing Tools and I say create a table, it will format it in a way that can be then easily copied into a word processor. So I've used it for that, and that's really helpful. I've used it to play around with tones of writing. I've purposely written something that's just kind of like quick and direct, and here's what I want to say. And then I've said, hey, make it friendly. And that can be helpful. But I am someone who loves to write, and that's an area of my life that I was an English major in college, and I kind of prided myself in trying to learn as much about tone and grammar and just how you get the written word across. So I find myself wanting to own the words that I send out to people. So I've mostly used it for things that are more informative text or something for work. I'm not going to use it to send a message to my parents or my wife or, draft a Christmas card. That's just not me. I'm not judging people who do, but I could see it being helpful for some of those day-to-day work tasks. Can I make a quick point, though? Is that okay?
Please. No, absolutely no.
Get off the podcast. I have been really shocked, and this is not my insight. I saw someone else say this, and I should credit them, but I don't remember. But some of the Apple Intelligence commercials highlighting the writing tools have really surprised me because they don't seem very Apple-like. So there's this one of a guy in an office who's sending an email, I think, to his boss, and he's just clearly not very organized. He's not intentional. He doesn't seem like a good employee. And he uses Apple Intelligence to write something and send it to his boss, and it really impresses his boss. And at the end of the commercial, I think the tagline is something like, genius, there's like this musical cue. And Apple, in my mind, has been about enabling creativity and synthesizing ideas and making something beautiful or new. And this seems to just be about enabling laziness and I don't and mediocrity. And I just don't know if that's the right spin. I don't know if you all have a thought on that.
I feel exactly the same way as you, and there've been a couple of those, and I know exactly the particular Apple Intelligence ad that you're speaking of. It's very funny, it's very clever, but yeah, unfortunately, I think it speaks to the problem we may all have with some people that we work with, that somehow they find a way to get elevated beyond what they should.
Don't hate the player, Jeff.
Is that what the story is? Okay.
That's what it is.
Okay.
Tale as old as time.
Anyway, yeah, I'm with you, Adam, 100% on that. It's not even so much that the idea of laziness to me is just not being smart enough to do something more easily and more quickly than others. And Mom, I'm looking at you. When I used to take out 3 bags of garbage at once, you used to call it a lazy man's load, but I got it done in one run. So I just want to know.
Hello, Jeff's mom again.
She's gonna be texting us again, telling us
have to get to work.
Exactly.
That's what she said.
There is definitely a point to taking your native intelligence and your native desire and finding a way to be more efficient with that, and efficient for purposes, to my mind, of making it so you have more time for yourself. And I know that sounds ridiculous to some people's minds. Productivity is a thing that I don't believe in. But the idea, my intent is always to try to get things done as quickly as possible, so that not I have time to do more of that kind of junk, but so I have more time to do reading and or watching movies or
something
writing.
Creative.
Right. That's really what it comes down to for me, is something creative, or something that is, filling myself with somebody else's creativity. So the spin on that ad, it really seems like, you could be a dumbass at work and not have to worry about anything because you got Apple Intelligence to be intelligent for you.
Yeah, and really, that's not the only one. There was one with Bella Ramsey, the actress, looking at, a screenplay, or not reading the screenplay and having a meeting with, that's just being unprepared. And I get it's a funny commercial, but at a time when people are worried about AI replacing them and making people obsolete, I think showing the tools being used in a context where you don't have to do work, or what the step up for that employee, that bad office employee, the next step in evolution is he doesn't exist and the AI just generates that email on his behalf. Is that the world we want to live in? I think it should be about augmenting us, not replacing us.
Yeah. And the next obvious step up is that the schmuck is the one that gets elevated above everybody else. And because he's able to use these dumb tools,
right,
he's able to get rid of anybody below him. And there are real people that do that regularly.
I think I know the answer, but
what's the answer?
Have you kicked the tires on the writing tools at all, just to look at it?
Nope.
I know you're not going to be a big user of it. But.
Nope, don't use the writing tools.
Okay.
How about you, Tom?
What's that?
Sorry, I was just curious if Tom's used writing tools.
I've done a little bit of testing with it. I'm just doing some research on it. I don't particularly like the user interface for it. I think the little pop-ups look fine, but when you try to do something, it gets a little bit weird, I think. Part of it just could be the way that I've worked, right? Because it's a new way to work and I haven't done it. But one of the things I noticed, is so with the writing tools, a lot of times, kind of the thing that I've fallen into is I'll do my writing and then I take it over to Grammarly and I throw it into the web app. I don't use the Grammarly app to track every little single thing. And to be honest, that kind of creeps me out a little bit. I don't know why, because I paste it right into the web thing. But if you've got the app running, though, it captures everything, because it's always, right, it's always looking at what you're typing to give suggestions and all that. And I don't really want that. I just wanted to take what I've written, kind of be the, first kind of look at it to be like, okay, because I know I make a lot of mistakes in it because I'm banging it out pretty quick or whatever. And so I'll do that. And I think I've just gotten used to that workflow where you paste that, 5, 6, 7, 8 paragraphs, whatever it is, into Grammarly. It kind of evaluates everything. gives you the split view so you can see like the grade that it assigns based off of the criteria that you've chosen inside of Grammarly, right? So you can say, do I want it to be informal, casual, whatever those are, 3 or 4 things. And then I can look at the suggestions kind of on the whole page and kind of see how it's all going to flow together. The writing tools I've noticed, if I'm on it, and they may have changed since I did this, it's been a little while ago, but if I'm in the writing tools and then I switch out to a different app, when I come back, say, to the app that I'm using the writing tools in, they've disappeared because the prompt comes up in this little box. And I also think just the way it presents some of the changes, I haven't, maybe it's just I'm not used to it yet. But I still use Grammarly. I've got the Pro account. I just have continued to use that instead.
Does that have AI built into it too? I mean, it's always done kind of some reader-y stuff in the background.
Right, yeah. So it does that. And then they do have where you can choose a block of text and say, improve this for me or rewrite, stuff like that, which I don't do too much of that. But I do like looking at the suggestions. Some of them are good. Some of them are like, no, that's not really how I want that to be. And I just reject it. But yeah, so for now, I'm using that still.
Yeah, and I think you could use writing tools. I haven't done it to like just clean up my writing, but that could be a good use case. I mean, it sounds like Grammarly is meeting that need for you. Mm-hmm. So the other one I've played with is the ChatGPT integration a little bit. Did you all catch any of OpenAI's 12 Days of Shipmas, where they announced big and small releases for 12 business days in a row?
I did not. I think I saw 1 or 2 in passing and don't remember what they are. But if you have those and you want to give us an overview, feel free.
Well, I just wanted to they did one that was about integrating with Apple Intelligence. That was one of their highlights. And one thing I thought was really neat is, and if people haven't tried this yet, on your Mac OS running the latest version, you can double tap the command button to activate Siri and you can ask a question. And if you do that and you have like a PDF up or a web page up, you can ask a question about the content on your screen, and you can actually say either ask a question about the screenshot of what's on your screen or the whole document. There's a little drop down. And so if you've pulled up a big PDF and you're just trying to get bullet points of what was this about, that's a really nice, quick way to have that built right in at the systems level. And it does a really nice job because it's going out to ChatGPT and using that technology to pull it. So I found that to be pretty cool. And then we were talking about toggles, opting in and out of things. So by default on your iPhone now, when you ask Siri a question and it determines it needs to go out to ChatGPT, it will ask you every time by default, you have to confirm or authorize it to go out to ChatGPT. I turned that off because I found that really irritating to have to authorize that every time. So just public service announcement. If you just wanted to do it anyway, if you're comfortable with sending that question out to ChatGPT, you can turn that off and then it will automatically do so if it determines that would be helpful. And I do have a paid account, and so I can see any searches that I've asked on the desktop app or in the browser. So I think that's smart. I would like to see them add other tools. It'll be interesting. I don't know. I have no idea what business deals have been made, but I've become a big fan of Anthropic's Claude model, particularly 3.5 Sonnet. Gemini had some big announcements over the last couple of weeks, Google's tool. It would be neat to see if you could pick your tool of choice if you're more invested in one than the other.
Yeah, that would be nice. And Claude is one that I was just talking to somebody about the other day that I want to spend some more time with. I think, Jeff, you've used that one a little bit. You've mentioned
I have used Claude, and I've used it to play with it. That's really been the reason. Basically, the guiding situation behind that for me is just to kind of have an understanding of what it does. And Claude's okay. I have used it. What I will occasionally do if there's some subject, particularly scientific or otherwise, that I'm not incredibly aware of, I will use it to ask questions about that. And that is useful in the way that Wikipedia is useful. Mm-hmm. That's how I find that to be. So that I think is valuable for being able to gather or garner information. The problem that I'll have with it is that that information may or may not always be correct.
Right.
It may not be exactly in line with any kind of reality. So you know me.
I turned on the ChatGPT integration as well. So I do have a paid account, so I chose to use that. You don't have to use your account. If you don't want to, but I did choose to do that. And you mentioned there, Adam, using the double press of the command bar or double tap in the home bar on iOS and iPad OS to kind of talk to Siri and stuff. I've actually used that more than I thought I would. Sometimes just for normal Siri stuff, which I know you could type to Siri before. But sometimes if I'm at the office, I just think, I need to remember to do something. I'll just do that because it's quick, right? And it's a lot faster than going into reminders or whatever to type it out and choose all that stuff. Somebody say, remind me to do such and such at 2:00. And so I've used that. I've used it a little bit with Siri, but to be honest, not a whole lot. And again, I think Siri has been such a dog for so long that I don't have that muscle memory of going to Siri to do much of anything other than set a reminder. And so I think that's going to be like a habit change if I just ever get to that point to actually benefit from it. Now, perhaps all of that gets turned on its head when we get into springtime and the new Siri comes out that has the personal context and awareness of what's on the screen and the data on your phone. And I think that's the real test to see if Siri is ever going to be worth much more than it is now. And I mean, there's a lot at stake, I think, for Apple for that new Siri that's supposed to be coming out in springtime. But until then, I still just don't think to go to Siri to do much. And especially
I'm the same way. And I like to use Apple Notes as my second brain. So if I meet someone new for work and I want to remember their name and the conversation we had, maybe they told me about an interest or their kid's name and what grade they're in, things that just the next time I have a conversation with them, I want to try to make that connection and be personal. If I just jot that down in a quick Apple Note, then it's off my brain. It's in my second brain. And it would be so awesome, as I'm driving someplace to say, and I don't want to trigger my home devices, but ask Siri to, hey, remind me what Jeff's favorite hobby
last name is.
Right. Yeah. Battersby. And just give me a quick 30-second overview of the last conversation we had. And I that would be really helpful to me. I could see using it for that. Or, if you track data around your health or your finances and you put that in Apple Notes and you kind of want to ask some questions around that, that would be pretty cool too. And have it sort of synthesize across multiple notes and maybe an email from your doctor or whatever it is. And I know that's getting into personally identifiable information, but if this is happening on device using Apple Silicon and some new power, I think that begins to really add value to like the human experience. You're bringing contextual information to the surface a lot faster.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I hope they nail it.
I do too. Have you all played with Image Playground at all?
I have a little bit.
Yep.
What'd you think?
Fun for 5 minutes.
Yep.
Totally agree.
I was just doing it right now for a second, just to kind of be goofy and remind myself. But I've done a few of those, and it's nothing I'll ever use more than. Yeah. I showed it to two of my nephews on Christmas Eve to make caricatures of them. So that was about the size of it.
A little party trick, and then after that, you put it away.
Yeah, that's it. Although I will say the Genmojis I have used. And that's been kind of a nice feature. I created a couple of Genmojis that were kind of Christmas related, so candy canes wrapped in a bow and that kind of stuff, which weren't by default in the emojis. It does, though. What's interesting is if you send it to somebody who has an Apple device, it shows up as an emoji. If you send it to somebody that is on Android, they just get a picture.
Really?
Yeah, they get it separately. It stands alone, so it doesn't show up as an emoji for them, which is not surprising because there's no emoji.
It's better
for
than
them,
I thought.
It really
I'm
is.
surprised it didn't say get an iPhone to use this feature.
Yeah. You have the wrong phone.
Right.
So that I have used, to some extent with a little bit of fun, because you can create a couple of interesting things with that. One of the things I have noticed about Image Playground is, and I can't remember, Tom, if I sent you a screenshot of this or not, but nothing not safe for work. But I was asking it to make some images, and it basically said that had maybe less than family friendly content, and it wouldn't let me do it.
No.
It
definitely guardrails in place.
Yeah,
and probably
for that kind of stuff. And that's for good reason.
Way conservative. But
yeah, I don't mind that, and I wasn't doing anything really that was not safe for work. Just kind of. I don't know, with an Apple tattoo on my forehead or something like that. And it, wouldn't let me. It actually said, "Sorry, I don't understand what you're asking," which is typical Siri. So I took it to be.
I'm having trouble connecting to the internet.
That's one I haven't heard for a while.
Yeah. I did, when that first came out, I did a whole bunch of family members and sent them around, and since then, not really anything.
Yeah.
Image Wand, to be honest, I had forgotten about. And so in prep of this episode, I did go into notes and sketched out a Christmas tree and circled it with the Image Wand tool selected in the writing, or not, don't want to say writing tools, that gets confusing, but the Apple Pencil tools inside of Notes. And so, made a tree kind of based on the sketch that I made. And then once you've started, then it very much mirrors Image Playground, where you can add additional prompts and have it add tinsel to the tree and lights and ornaments and a star up top. Something I did notice was, and this isn't the only AI tool I've noticed this in, I went back and had it, this was a few minutes later, I went back and had it add some GIFs under the tree on the ground. And it regenerated like an entirely new version of the tree. Like the original art was completely discarded, and then it came up with a new one. It was very similar, but it definitely wasn't
not
the same.
Yeah.
Summaries? You guys using the summaries at all?
Yeah, for jokes. We've had a couple of interesting situations with that. I have used summaries. I think they're kind of useful, really useful if you're getting long messages in CarPlay, because it'll give you a summary of what the conversation is. I have seen online and in my own experience situations where the summary ends up being way more salacious than the actual text message is. I think I sent you, we talked about this one a few episodes back about, a friend was having a medical issue and sent a message about changes to what their OBGYN was doing. But the text summary was, what it said was the birth control didn't work.
Oh my goodness.
And that's a slightly much different meaning than
message.
What it was that was being said, and taken out of context or read in the car, could mean a totally different thing. And there have been a couple of those, that perhaps were accurate, but not exactly what was being said. So, I am using that. I think one of the other features is the breakout of email messages in iOS into, various groupings, that for the most part, I think work fine. I've been using that pretty regularly. And it kind of hides the garbage for the most part, which I really like. So summaries I have used and enjoy. How about you?
Are you asking me or Tom? Both.
Which you or Tom? I'm asking both of you.
Okay, Adam.
I have really mixed feelings on summaries. At first I thought, man, this is really cool. But I also just don't know if I need it on 99% of messages. Do I need a summary of my wife sending me, hey, pick this up at the grocery? Like, I don't know. on the mail app specifically, I did check that out. And as you both may recall, I don't use Apple Mail. I'm a huge fan of Hey email. I still think Hey is the app for me, but it was cool to see Apple Mail trying to sort intelligently some messages. And I'm glad to hear, Jeff, you're finding it keeps some of the unwanted messages to the side.
Yeah, most of the garbage.
Yeah, and I've got that turned on. I still don't know if I like it. I mean, it's been in Gmail for ages, but it's one of those things. I still have to go to those sections to look to, either I need to clear the junk out of it, or like, oh, that shouldn't have been there. And so I'm like, I don't know that it's saving me much.
You do know you can make those adjustments, right? You can adjust where that. Okay, good.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's
and so I have it on, but honestly, most of the time I go all the way over to the right-hand side of the categories at the top and just leave it on all mail. So I might as well turn it off.
Let me just teach you a shortcut, pal. Since we are the Basic AF show, and apparently you're pretty basic at the moment. If you tap the one that you're on, it will take you to all of them. You don't have to slide all the way over.
What do you mean?
So if you know how it has the tabs at the top.
Uh-huh.
So if highlighted, I can't remember what the main one is, but if you tap that, it will take you to all of them. So by default, whatever whatever one.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't have to do the slide thing.
Gotcha.
The electric slide.
Yeah, I'll probably turn that crap off.
Yeah. There you go.
And Tom, there's one more on your list that I have used recently with great success. I love this feature, which is the audio recording and notes with a transcript and summary.
Mm-hmm.
Love it. So I do a lot of focus groups for work. I'll meet with teachers or parents and community members of the schools that we're serving. And previously I would type, right, like as fast as I could and try to get quotes from people. And I started just recently opening up either my iPhone or my laptop, opening a note, starting that recording, make sure it can hear it well, and then I can be fully present in the conversation and the questions and follow up. It records all of it. The summary, not that great like for my use case, but the transcript is amazing. It's so good. And then you can copy that transcript, what I've been doing, and go to ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini and say, identify the key themes from this transcript and provide quotes that support each key theme. And so then I am getting evidence that substantiates the themes with quotes from the transcript. That's really a beautiful use case for my work. And I'm really glad to see that that's there. And there are devices out there you can buy that just do that. And so it's really neat that that's been built into the Apple ecosystem.
Yeah. So when you do that, if you have, say, 3 people that are part of the discussion, does it identify speaker 1, 2, and 3, or is it all jumbled together?
That's a great question. It does not. And there are tools out there like Otter AI that you can say, hey, Tom speaking, Jeff speaking, is Adam speaking, and you can label it, and then it will label all the audio correctly. It doesn't do that yet. That would be really cool if they add that eventually. But no, not today.
Yeah, feels like that's coming in an update probably. Probably even if it's not names, if they just identify like the speaker, right? Speaker.
Yeah,
1,
that would
2,
be really
3.
cool.
And then you can go and name them, and then it would update throughout the transcript.
Yeah, what's interesting is Apple's podcast app has transcriptions built into it as well. That doesn't do that either. It doesn't differentiate between speakers. You just get kind of stream of consciousness.
Yeah.
It would be nice to have that as a breakout, though. And once it's differentiated between the voices, if there's a way that you can go in and just say voice 1, Tom, voice 2, Adam, voice 3, Jeff, and then have it handle it that way, that would be brilliant.
Yeah, and that's primary reason why I edit this show in Fairwrite on the iPad, and one of the kind of companion apps that you can get to go with it is an app called Transcriptionist. And so I edit the show and then I export out a version for transcription. But what's smart that the developer did is it has names for each track that it exports out for transcription. So when you open it up in the Transcriptionist app, you can just put the names there. It's Jeff, it's Tom, it's Adam, so on. And then as it processes through all of the audio, because the tracks themselves are labeled, it knows that's Jeff, that's Tom. So it ends up being really accurate. And it just takes a little while to run, but it doesn't matter. I just click start and it does its thing. But
you telling me that that's in our transcripts? If I look at these,
you pull them up.
I might have to check that out.
Yeah, and I never went into. There's a setting in the Podcast Connect app that Apple has where you manage your podcast, and you can say use your own transcription or use the one in the podcast app. And I think I just left it on the podcast app. So in podcast is probably just that jumbled mess of text. Yeah. But if you're in a different one, you probably see it split out. It's definitely split out if you look on the website. But cool. And I've been thinking about using that. So, I do the newsletter that I send out a couple times a month, and I don't really do well with typing out ideas, like just sitting down and banging them out. And so I'm working on a better way to do that. And I've started mind mapping those things out. And I was telling a friend earlier when I met with him that I'm thinking about then taking that mind map, which is basically just an outline, and then doing an audio recording in Notes or any other app that supports that. I guess just Notes at this point, maybe, but, and then letting it transcribe it. And then that kind of becomes the article. And then I just clean it up a little bit. I think it'll save me some time, but
cool.
All right. Adam, which phone do you have again? Remind you have a 16?
16 Pro. Yep.
Okay. You've got 16 Pro. Have you played with the visual intelligence with the camera control button at all yet?
A little bit, very sparingly. Yeah. What are your thoughts?
So I tried that out the other day and a little bit today, because I'm going to put a little piece in the newsletter about it here in the next week or so. It's not too bad. So for the people that don't know, if you press and hold the camera control button on the 16 series phones, it will come up into, basically it's a camera view, but if you press the circular button, or if you just hold it on the subject long enough, it eventually will just take it. But it almost, you just take a picture, and then you get two buttons that say ask or search, just to the left and right of the circle. Now, if you're going to use the ask feature, that requires ChatGPT. So you've got to enable that if you haven't already. If you do a search, it's just a Google search. But I sent Jeff some screenshots the other day when I was playing around with it. So I went out to the garage and I took photos of my weight rack out there with it. And I did both. And what I wanted to see was how it compared to like just using the ChatGPT app, because you can go right into ChatGPT and take a picture too, and it'll tell you things. And so I kind of went back and forth between the two, and very similar results for them. I think Apple is doing a fair bit of condensing for the message that comes back from ChatGPT to keep it short and relatively brief. Whereas if you go into the ChatGPT app and send the picture of the rack, I mean, it came back with, oh, this looks like a Rogue such and such rack. There's a barbell attached on the end. There's a TRX strap hooked up top. There are adjustable dumbbells on the floor. There's some home pods on the wall. I was like, whoa, that's a lot. And so but it seems pretty good. And it depends on what you're doing with it. So you can do that kind of thing for objects. And then you can also do text. Like I tested that this morning. I took a picture of the page in the book, and you can have it read aloud. You can have it translate. It's a neat little trick. I'm struggling to see where I would find benefit in having it read aloud the page when I'm looking at the page myself, unless I just wanted to listen to it in the background, maybe. So that was okay. And then when I went out earlier to meet a friend, I took a picture of the front of the coffee shop that we stopped at, because for businesses, it will recognize the business and then show you the hours. You can order food, see the menu, call, that sort of thing.
That's pretty cool. I have not tried that, like with a business.
Yeah, but like he said, he's like, or you could just walk in and see the menu.
Ask the human or look at the sign.
You could do that too. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was pretty good. I think if you were traveling, probably, could be helpful, especially if it's someplace where you do need translations, like it maybe, I don't know, maybe it's Vietnamese or something, you want to translate it to English. I could see that being useful perhaps for those types of situations.
Yeah, I think everything you said makes so much sense. I've only played with it a little bit. I also feel like it gives a really short summary when you use it, whereas some other tools give you a lot more context. And I think that is by design. I think that's totally a choice. We'll see how they build on that. What I'm excited about is being able to maybe take action on something you see. So I think, did they show, I don't want to misspeak, so confirm this, guys. I think that they showed like pointing at a concert poster and it had the date and in one of their keynotes, and it could tell you, you could like set a calendar event with it, or is that coming?
I think some of that is out now.
Okay. So I have not tried that, obviously, or I would know if it worked, but that's kind of interesting. I'm also intrigued by, let's say you're out and about and you see something, or you're at a friend's house and you want to snap a picture and say, add that to my Amazon cart, or where can I buy this?
Right.
And it going into another app and like taking action for you, that sort of agentic behavior. I think that could be pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And something I noticed with it, just like we were talking about the writing tools, how they tend to, if you switch out and come back, they've disengaged. This is conversational. So if I'm taking a picture of the weightlifting rack or a car, a dog, whatever it is, I can ask follow-up questions, through ChatGPT. Problem is, if I touch anywhere on the photo, it disappears. And they're almost like just these little thought bubbles, and then
they're
lost
gone.
my thought, and they're gone, and there's no way to get back to it. And for me, and Adam, I want to see what you think. One of the kind of the key things with ChatGPT when I use that is that conversational piece of, I ask it something, it gives me some information, I follow up and say, well, what about, what am I missing here? And it comes back with some more. And I don't want to lose that context. And with the way that they've got things set up now, it's so easy to dismiss it, and then you kind of have to start over again. And you mentioned earlier on in the show that your ChatGPT searches, that any of them that you use, if you've got a paid account, will show up in your search history when you go back to ChatGPT. So every time you have to start a new one of those, it puts it in a new chat rather than it all being in one long chat, so that you can just go right back to that. So some usability things I think that they've got to work through, but
it kind of needs a feature like the Shazam, built into the iOS has, right, where you've got the ability both in Apple Music and if you open up Shazam on your iOS device, it shows you all the stuff that you've listened, that you've tried to collect. It's got that history, and it needs that little piece of back end. I don't see anything in looking at it while you guys are talking. I was trying to look and see if there's any way to collect that history. Not that I've used it that much, because you know me, but that seems like a required use case. That's a thing that really needs to be a part of this. So you have the ability to even 2 or 3 days later pick it back up and continue the thought, which you do have. That's one of the things I like about Claude, is that in the app, and probably it's true of the others, but in Claude you have the ability to pick up that. Yeah, that it feels like search and continue it.
Yeah, at some point, this feels like it's going to just be an app where you can go in and then you'll see the history, right? So if you want to go back to it a couple of days later, be like, oh yeah, there it is, and then I can do something additionally with it at that point.
Yeah, I agree.
Right now it's just through the button. But all right, any closing thoughts, Adam? If you had to, and Jeff, I'll get your opinion too, of course. If we had to grade this stuff, Adam, what for Apple Intelligence as a whole, we don't have to go individually, but by feature, we'd be here another hour, but and nobody wants that. So
nobody wants the first hour.
What would you think? Like, how are you feeling about it so far?
Oh, that's so tough. I appreciate the question, though. You put me on the spot. I'm going to say a B-. I want the personal context. I want deeper integration with all the things I can do with my phone. That's going to really add value. Right now, I can get a lot of this with the ChatGPT app or Perplexity or Gemini. I want to see Apple go to the next level and integrate a lot of this contextual information and personalization into the experience.
Yep. Mr. Battersby?
My opinion is not any different than it has been with some of the others. It's presently for me an interesting parlor trick. I'm not sure how much I like it. There are places that I like it. Like I do like, although it's still a little janky, I haven't used it since I sent you that picture, of being able to move or remove something from a picture to make make that photo better. So those kinds of things I can see the benefit of. but you know, I'm not all in on this yet, and probably won't be. You know, that's just the nature of moi, the artisanal tech guy.
Artisanal tech, I like that. Tom, what's your grade?
Oh, Jeff, did you give us a grade other than meh?
Yeah, that's my grade.
Okay.
Yeah.
See the teacher. See
See the teacher, right. I got a lot of those, by the way.
After class.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go with like a C-.
Oh, wow.
Parts of it I think are fun and are promising. The summaries in some instances I like. I think in mail, especially for thread messages where there's 8-10, right? I think they can be okay. Sometimes though, the message itself is so short, if it just showed you the preview, you'd know exactly what was said instead of the incorrect summary that it gives you. So little things like that. Yeah. By the way. And I do think, you know, before they announced this stuff, they were like, well, Apple's probably a couple years behind. And I think that was very much the case. Because honestly, if we take out like the ChatGPT integration, it ain't much, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you get some summaries, you get some image tools that, you know, are for entertainment purposes only, we'll say.
And Genmoji, don't forget about the Genmoji.
And Jeff's Genmoji, yeah, which of all things has our artisanal tech and his Genmoji tips. So yeah, I think C-, like I said, that could change a lot though. If, you know, depends on what they do with Siri and the context that you alluded to there, Adam, a couple minutes ago, in the spring. But for right now, I think that's where I'm at.
And to that end, let me just say that I appreciate the slow build as opposed to the let's burn down the world and then figure out what we've done after the fact. So I don't mind that. The world may already be burning, but you know, Apple's at least going to do it well.
Or they'll say, well, you did that when you turned on ChatGPT. We didn't do that.
Yes. Yes.
We'll give you the gas and the match. You lit the fire, man.
Yeah, right.
All right, Jeff, you want to take us home, sir?
Sure. As always, feedback at basicafshow.com. And we do like to get your feedback. You have the ability also on various social platforms. Where are we now, Tom? We're on Threads? Are we still on that X
We're on
thing?
Threads and Instagram.
Okay, so you can get us at Basic AF on both of those places, and we like to hear from you. Also, in your podcasting app, there's a link to leave us a voicemail message. So call us bad names. We'd like to hear that. And a general reminder, show music, Psychokinetics and Celsius 7. We're really appreciative of for letting us use that music. We think it bumps, and you should listen. And our good friend Randall Martin Design. And Adam, why don't you remind us once again where you're coming from, where we can find you.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. So best places to follow me, I have the same name everywhere. It's Adam Jones, INK, like the ink you write with.
Okay. Easy. As if there's probably more than one Adam Jones.
Well, that's the problem. There are quite a few. So that's how I made it unique.
Some of them popular too. So
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Well, Adam, hey, we really appreciate you coming back with us, spending an hour with us today to talk about this. It's been fun, and as always, open invite to have you to come back. So would love to do that too.
Yeah, it was a real joy, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Remember to put it in your notes that I'm Jeff Battersby.
Basic AF Jeff.
Basic AF Jeff.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for being here. Happy New Year. Hope this year brings a lot of joy and happiness and health and all of those good things to you. Do appreciate you being here. Until next time, have a great rest of your day or your night.
See ya.